I've just briefed the Security Council with generally positive news regarding the political transition in Yemen. The opening of the National Dialogue Conference on the 18th of March was an historic moment for Yemen. Groups which only a year ago were engaged in armed clashes are now gathering in the same hall discussing a common future for their country. This stands in marked contrast to the tragic event 2 years prior when on 18th of March 2011, 45 peaceful demonstrators were killed and 200 were injured. While was this notably a major milestone, I draw the Council's attention to the serious challenges that remain. I told the Council that there is unrest in the south. A civil disobedience movement is now attracting large numbers to the streets. The calls for secessions have grown. After nearly 2 decades of discrimination, repression, and unaddressed legitimate grievances, the people in the South are wary and skeptical of promises of reform. Many Yemenis agree that the resolution to the Southern question holds the key to the success of Yemen's transition. Some Hirak groups are absent from the conference. Others have joined, and joined cautiously, with the expectation that the conference will address their interest with honesty and respect, including demands by some for separation. I have been reaching out to Southern leaders and have consistently conveyed that the only means to a resolution is through dialogue. I am pleased to report that many have reaffirmed to me their rejection of violence and their commitment to dialogue. The Yemeni government will need to undertake immediate confidence-building measures in the south to address the long-standing grievances of Southerners over unlawful or illegitimate seizure of property and unjust dismissals from the military and civil service. And then I told the Security Council about the humanitarian situation. The humanitarian crisis remains. This year's humanitarian appeal needs are well under-resourced and still requires 78% of its funding needs. Countries reaffirmed their commitment to Yemen during the 7th of March Friends of Yemen meeting. Unfortunately, however, many pledges have not materialized, and I hope that donors will fulfill the promises they made. Regrettably, during the first week of the National Dialogue, attacks on infrastructure intensified, with 9 reported attacks on electricity transmission lines and 5 on fuel pipelines. There have been several assassination attempts in Sana'a, targeting government officials, and in one case, a delegate to the National Dialogue. The timeline remains a serious challenge, with less than a year remaining to conduct the conference, constitution-making process, including the referendum, electoral reforms, and the general elections. Reforms to restructure and unify the armed forces have been announced, but are still to be implemented. Preparations for a new biometric voter registry remain only in the nascent stages and will require urgent resources to be made available. Nevertheless, Yemen continues to stand as the only example in the region of a peaceful, negotiated transition that is based on a comprehensive roadmap and a genuine national dialogue. The National Dialogue Conference has opened a new chapter in the transition for which Yemenis are now writing their own pages. Everything is open and to be determined by the will of the Yemeni people. They are now deciding their own future. If you allow me, I'm going to make some remarks also in Arabic for the Arabic media.